So you might have heard the saying, pride cometh before the fall, but you might be a little bit confused as to what it means. So I'm here today as a way to explain to you what that means and why pride is something that's actually a very negative thing, a very bad thing for you in your life, and why you need to learn to humble yourself. So pride cometh before the fall. You may think of pride, oh no, pride's a good thing. I want to be proud. I want, my family to be proud of me. And, you think of pride in that regard and you're thinking, oh, well, what can be wrong with that, right? And a lot of people kind of have that, so I'm here to explain it. So really the truth is there's two types of pride. There's good pride and there's deadly pride. The good pride is that type of pride that you might be thinking of, where, you're striving in your life to make your parents proud, make your family proud with the work you've done, make God proud even. That's the type of pride that you might be thinking of, where it's actually not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing for you to strive to make other people proud with what you do, and it allows you to do things for others, do things for people, and do the things that God would want you to do depending on what you're looking at. It's the second type of pride that is self-pride, pride in yourself, that can become arrogance, can become large ego, and can become very detrimental to you, to your relationships, to the people around you, and to your faith and relationship with God. And that's what it can be if you let it slip. If pride becomes something that you're prideful in yourself. Be like, oh, it was me. I did this, right? I did this. This is my work. This is my thing. I'm proud of myself that I've made this happen. And then, it's that selfish behavior. It's that selfish mentality that it's you. It's all about you, right? But you have to really realize that it's really nothing to do with you. It has to do with God and His grace and His will. And if anything good really ever happens to you, it's because He's allowed it to happen, or He shaped you to become the person that can make something happen. You're the person that you are today because of what God's put you through. It has nothing to do with yourself. And realizing that is a way that you can humble yourself and not be so selfish and arrogant. Now, you'll drive a lot of people away with being egotistical, prideful, and arrogant in your ways, and obviously that's not a good thing, right? You want to be a nice person, you want to be a good person, you want to be humble. And if you shifted the focus off of other people, off of God, and you only think about yourself and what you do, then it can lead to destruction. It can lead to your destruction, and it can lead to a lot of issues. And sure, you might make a lot of money. Sure, you might make it to the top, but you won't find that fulfillment that you're looking for in life, and you'll be one of those rich, miserable people because you pushed everyone away. And again, I know people like this that are miserable because they push people away because of their own arrogance and inability to meet someone in the middle on a certain issue or be humble because they think that it's all about them. So I'm going to call myself out. The main point of this episode, really, there's 2 points to this episode. Number one is to just let you know, tell you what pride is, explain it, and explain the concepts of how it is. And the second one is to call myself out, that for some reason I feel like I've been developing an ego and a bit of a prideful tone. Like sometimes people would tell me things, and then in my mind, even if I don't say it out loud, in my mind I'm thinking, really? You don't think I'm a capable person? You don't think I'm this? You don't think I'm that? But I know I'm this. I know I'm that. And in many different situations that's happened. And I'm catching myself in real time doing that, being like, okay, why am I developing an ego? What use is there to me having an ego and pride? Of course, I'm a Christian, I'm a faithful man, and I know just how deadly pride can be. Pride is a thing that's talked about so much in the Bible, throughout the books of the Proverbs, throughout Jesus' time. The idea of pride, it's formulated in the Bible, but it's basically a synonym to arrogance and ego, and it leads to destruction, which is then the saying that comes out, pride cometh before the fall. Pride is the devil, truly. The saying, those types of things come out because pride is why is my throat like this? I have to do 2 cuts. These sayings come out largely because of the teachings in the Bible. That's to say that pride is super bad. A fool is a person that is super prideful. In the Proverbs, it's talk about that a lot, the idea of pride and ego and arrogance in that way. and how it will destroy you, your relationships, and people around you, those concepts come from the Bible. So I read that, I know this, but me in my life, me personally, I've seen it. I've seen my own development, and I don't like the way it's going. So I'm, maybe as a way to call myself out online, get it out there so that it's always going to permanently be out there online, so that other people can potentially check me in the future. I want that because I don't want to be prideful, egotistical. I want to learn to be more humble. I want to be, more open to other people's ideas and open to other people criticizing me rather than being so stuck in my ways. And if you get stuck in your ways, that's how you lead to just extremism, radicalism, and all of the kind of traits and virtues that lead to your own destruction. And I am aware of this. So I'm kind of calling myself out here that I've been kind of seeing that. And the truth is, with egos, you shouldn't have an ego ever. Really, it doesn't really benefit you all that much to have this huge ego. It's way more beneficial to be humble, regardless if you're at the bottom or at the top. Being humble is a much more noble quality, and you'll get the respect of many other people, regardless of where you are in life, if you are humble versus if you're overly confident and egotistical. So you shouldn't have an ego ever. But it's even less merited if you haven't done anything in your life to deserve it. And there are many people that are even worse than me. I'm lucky that I'm conscious enough to check myself and understand that I'm, potentially falling down a bad path, and I have to really call myself out. But other people are just at the point, and there are people, you can understand, like stereotypical person that just, is thinks they're better than everyone. But in reality, they actually haven't done anything with themselves. It's just an insecurity, jealousy type of thing. And they project it onto everyone else as their own ego, as their own, oh, I'm better than you type of mentality. But really, you look at the scope of their lives, it's really a sad life, and you wouldn't want to live their life. So, you kind of feel for them a little bit. But those are the types of people that are even worse off and are even more down this bad path of pride that the devil has a big strangle over when it comes to that. So I'm lucky that I'm calling myself out, but I have to call myself out and be humble because I haven't done anything in my life to deserve this little ego that I'm starting to develop here. Sure, I'm doing a couple of business things. Sure, I'm doing stuff on the side. Sure, I went to another country for 2 years to pursue a dream. While it is true that not a lot of people would make the choice, not a lot of people would take those risks and do those things that I've done, I haven't actually gotten anything from it. So as a result, I have no reason to have an ego. I haven't made a lot of money. I haven't actually made it as a professional football player. I haven't actually done anything that would prove that I am this really formidable person. I want to try and become a formidable person. I want to be the person that can be successful. I want to be the person that can achieve great success and great wealth. Most importantly, I want to be the person that gets stuff done, the person that takes action rather than just thinks and talks and all this stuff, the person that actually takes action. I want to make that kind of what the culture of myself and my life and the people around me and the environment, I want to make that what that is. But it isn't right now. And the point is, it isn't right now. So in my mind, like, why am I acting like it already is when it really isn't? And I have to humble myself in order to get myself to the stage where I can say, okay, now I've kind of cultivated that culture, I've made some money, and now I can move forward in my life. But being prideful now, being egotistical now, in the stage that I'm in right now in my life, to me, it's nothing. To me, it shouldn't even be possible because I know that I haven't actually done anything yet. I know I believe in myself and my abilities, and I believe in God's grace that one day I might. But I haven't. So the point is, it's just like, what am I doing, right? What am I doing? Even having thoughts arise in my mind of like, kind of not being humbled to anything. So I'm calling myself out that maybe eventually, after recognizing the problem, I can be more humble and focus more on what other people want, focus more on what God wants from me rather than always thinking about myself. Focus on what God wants from me. Focus on what Christ wants me to do with my life, of course, and glorify Him truly in all that I do. But when I'm doing things because I'm doing them for myself, in the end of the day, it's not glorifying God. As much as you want to claim that it is, if you're doing something for yourself, it's not glorifying God. And, the more I kind of hone that into my own brain, my own mind, the more I accept that, the better person I'll be. And I'm going to keep growing and getting better, and hopefully better in my humility rather than in my arrogance and ego and pride. That, of course, will lead to my destruction if I fall down paths that a lot of people fall down in their lives. So I'm calling myself out here. Why is humility a hard thing to do? Why is it hard for me to grasp, and why is it hard for so many other people to kind of grasp the idea? Well, if it was easy, it wouldn't be taught. It wouldn't be something that was necessary to teach. And the Bible talks about it all the time clearly because it's something important that it's hard for many people to grasp. That many people, we as humans are really prone to just thinking about ourselves and just what we can do, what we're good at, what we're great at. And humility isn't just destroying yourself. No, humility is confidence in yourself, but also knowing that you fall short, knowing that you fall short, knowing that you're not invincible, knowing that you're not better than anyone else. It's also not supposed to be a degrading thing either. Humility is a very noble quality, and some people maybe give it a bad rep because they're overly humble, that they end up degrading themselves and ruin their own lives because they're helping so many other people. That's going a little bit too far on that spectrum. There would be no reason to teach it. And of course, in the Bible, they talk about pride all the time, about humility all the time. And Jesus Christ himself says, whoever praises himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be praised. And he says that many times with different wording. I've kind of paraphrased it, modernized it, but really the translation of what Jesus says, he says it multiple times, and it's absolutely true. At the end of the day, if you're more humble, you will be praised for it. If you're rich and you're arrogant, maybe you won't get criticized for it, but people will kind of expect it. But if you're rich and you're humble, it's so much more of a noble quality to have. And I feel like people that are rich and humble, successful in their life, but also super humble, it gives them more peace in their lives. They're seen and more well respected as being more noble people. And of course, it allows them to be at peace with themselves and fulfill God's word by helping others and being humble and helping the world do better and using his platform for good. Versus the arrogant person, the confident person, that sure, their self-confidence was a tool and a driver and a motivator to get them to big riches and big wealth. And sure, it was something that they used and it was very useful for them. But then they got to the top and their kind of true colors have been shown. And that's something that is very, very well seen in this world today. And I think it's pretty obvious that if you're humble, you'll be more well respected. But if you're super arrogant, or if pride takes over, if your own self-confidence becomes arrogance and pride and ego, less people want to be around you, and maybe the people you attract will be people that are also like that. And at the end of the day, those types of people are also not very good to be around. So it can just lead to just misery in general. And well, of course, it is easier, just innately as humans, as a human trait. It's easier to be prideful and arrogant than it is to be humble. Again, that's what I said before. If it was easy to be humble, there would be no need to teach it. But it's clearly needed to be taught because it's actually a difficult thing. It's about denying yourself, denying what you do, denying what you're great at, even if you are great at it. Instead of just praising yourself constantly at all the great things that you're good at, you deny yourself and you say, okay, I have faults here, I have faults there. Even if I don't necessarily agree with what this guy is saying, or I don't agree with what's happening right now, I'm going to hear it out. I'm going to be humble. I'm going to see, because it will help me in the future, help me in the long run, being humble in this situation rather than just kind of clinging to my own perceptions and thoughts and abilities and thinking that it's enough. And being humble also allows you to learn. Simply put, on this life of growth, you're always going to be humbled. You're always going to learn new things. And to learn new things, you will be humble. Right? You will make mistakes. You will do something that is terrible. and you will absolutely get your ego shattered, right? That's why I'm kind of calling myself out, that like before this huge thing that shatters my ego and like kind of ruins me and destroys me for a period in time happens, I can maybe avoid that earlier by actually calling myself out. Who knows? It might not be enough. Maybe God, whatever God's plan is for me, is something to humble me, almost certainly, and it's going to be interesting to see. But being humble allows you to kind of just recognize that you're not enough, that you by yourself, you miss things, right? And everyone misses things. Nobody is everything. Nobody has every single skill set. Even if you seem to think you know what you're talking about, you know it all. That's a good one. Know-it-alls, right? Know-it-alls and those types of people are probably the worst people to be around in your life. And all that comes from is from a huge lack of humility and a huge lack of their own social awareness and their own self-perception of their social standing, is where those types of people come into play. But what I'm trying to get at here, if I can try and get this point home and really get this point across, is to say that arrogance and overconfidence is kind of all over the place. So if you're humble now, you realize that yes, you need to take a step back. Then you won't be massively humbled in the future, in a way that kind of just destroys you, because there will be things in your life that kind of destroy you and really bring you down to earth, especially if your ego is so high. Even if it serves you for a period, inevitably, it's inevitable that something will happen and you'll be knocked down a few pegs. Instead of having to be knocked down a few pegs, you fall over and you have to go through all the trouble of getting yourself back up. Just don't have the ego at all. And you don't need to build back up any ego when you get humbled, because you don't have it at all. Because you're humble from the first place, from the start, from the get-go, from the start of your journey, from the start of your life, from the start of your career, your job, your studies, your education, whatever it may be that you're pursuing, that you're humble, that you know that what you do is never going to be enough, especially not in the eyes of God. If we're all trying to, live Christ-like lives, and we're trying to live as well as Christ did and follow his teaching, we have to know that we will never actually reach that point. We will always fall short, and that's the basic Christian teaching, is that we will always fall short, but that's okay. That's fine. It's okay, because Christ loves us regardless and forgives us for our sins regardless, so long as we truly call them out and recognize what sins are. And pride is for sure a sin, and absolutely a part of the great sins that lead to your destruction and death, not just on this earth, but in the afterlife as well. From a Christian teaching perspective, but also from a humanitarian perspective, it just doesn't really serve you in any way. It might serve you for a season, for a period, but in the long run, it will be the death of you. And then, comes back to the start of this episode, where I say, pride cometh before the fall. And that's, it's a big saying, because truly, even if pride and arrogance and, selfishness was a tool that you use to get to a good stage in life, that's cool. But you will be humble. Christ said it himself. You will absolutely at some point be humbled for your arrogance, and you think you're at the tippity top of the ladder, and you're the king of the castle and no one's ever going to stop you. Something will stop you. And then when something stops you, it'll be a huge down to earth moment that might completely destroy you. So instead of even having to risk any of that, just be humble from the start, from the get-go. And it's tough. I'm not saying it's easy. I've obviously gone through a few points here that, make it really true that it's not easy, because we humans are inclined to just think about ourselves rather than think about others. And, ourselves kind of come first. That's an innate survival perspective and trait that we have. That's natural. But it is absolutely a more noble thing to work towards humility, to understanding when your ego is getting in the way of you understanding someone else's perspective, something that you disagree with, and it allows you to be more open to things. Sometimes being too open to things is a destructive thing, and of course sometimes people take humility way too far, but really the main gist of it is for the person like me, where I'm calling myself out, the person that is tends to be a lot more egotistical and prideful, especially if you haven't done anything to merit it, which is kind of where I'm at. To humble yourself is important, but it's absolutely not going to be an easy task. You're not going to do it overnight. You're not going to wake up the next morning and be like, oh yeah, I'm humble now. That's a contradiction in and of itself. You say how humble you are, that basically just ruins the whole point, because you're bragging about being humble, but that means you're not really humble. And that's another thing. I mean, I mentioned bragging, but like that's another huge thing. I didn't even touch upon it. And we're almost done the episode. I was going to wrap up, but actually, let me just quickly touch upon bragging, being very braggadocious, being very, up in there. Oh, yeah, I have this, I have that, I've done this, I've done that. I'm so great because I do this. Bragging is also just such a terrible trait. Nobody will like you. No one will respect you if you brag about your amazing achievements and how you're the greatest, right? And that is like maybe the epitome of ego. That's maybe the epitome of know-it-all, self-righteous type of people that think that they're, all the best type of people out there, right? The Pharisees in the Bible were the biggest example of that. These people that they think that they're saved, they think they're the best because they are so good. They thank God that they're not like the sinners and that they're perfect people because they assume they're perfect. That's why Jesus rebukes them. But they are a huge example of why pride is the destruction of many. And bragging and thinking you're the best, and specifically the act of bragging, the act of actually going out there and boasting about it, telling people about how great you are, it's not going to get you anywhere. No one's going to like you. And well, that's only going to open the door for you to be humbled even further. And who knows what that means for you? Who knows what crazy thing will happen to you for you to, lose all your achievements, lose all your skills, lose everything. And, God is absolutely going to do that. And God will absolutely humble you. Again, Christ said it himself. If you praise yourself, you will be humbled. But if you're humble, you will be praised. And being humble doesn't have to be something you even talk about. It just needs to be something you do. And it's the same concepts of life. It's about doing rather than speaking, right? It's not about your words, it's about your actions. And humility is really an action rather than words, right? It's the action to listen to someone you disagree with because you think your opinion's right, but you hear them out and maybe look for faults of your own. It's the act of pausing and stopping yourself when you want to brag to people, or when you want to talk about all your achievements and stuff. Pausing. It's an act. And it's not necessarily something you say, it's something that you don't say. That's what really humility is. And the act of being humble is tough. I have to work on it myself. I call myself out and I'm saying that I need to work on it. So, during this podcast, during these episodes, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to, try to, again, approach situations with love rather than hate, and be more humble in the way I live my life and the way I think about myself, and always give the glory to God in the highest. That's what the goal of this entire show is. And I'm going, you're going to see my, attempts at growing and getting even better as a person every day. And being humble is absolutely a part of that. So if you have any questions, any inquiries, any debates, any things that you disagree on when it comes to, the idea of pride, humility, maybe you think self-confidence is important. Maybe self-confidence is, I'm sure there's a level of self-confidence that's important, absolutely. So maybe you completely disagree with all that I'm saying. That's fine. Write a comment. Let me know. I'm more than happy to talk, more than happy to expand on my perspective, on my thoughts and my ideas, why I'm coming from the angle that I'm coming at when it comes to pride. And, again, as with everything, just be respectful, and we'll have good chats, good conversations. And, that's what we're trying to do here. Bounce ideas off each other, improve together. You guys get to see my improvement, and ideally I get to see yours as well throughout this show, throughout this year, throughout these 365 days that I'm doing this podcast. And yeah, so it's about being less prideful, being less arrogant, having less of an ego, especially when you don't merit it. Even when you do merit it, it could still hinder you, and it's probably still more beneficial to be humble even when you could have an ego, to be humble when you could have an ego is an even greater trait to have. And it's something you should strive towards. It's an action, not a word, and it's the act of not saying something when you could, or the act of helping others when you could be focusing on yourself, something like that, something along those lines. That's what truly being humble is. It's hard to do. So in this life, we're trying to be better every day. We're trying to grow, and putting away your prideful feelings and switching them out for humility, for always denying yourself, always looking to God rather than to yourself, praising Him rather than you, focusing on Him rather than you, and trying to make other people proud rather than make yourself proud. That's what's going to make you live an even better life, what's going to make you have respect among a lot of people, and what's going to truly make you find peace within yourself.